whirr. Those trumpet calls, murdering sleep, with darkness, whirlwind and invisible rain, trees roaring, clouds bursting, thunder crashing, lightning crackling, floods rising, and our mother demented.
I can't think what I've done to be so troubled and tried.
Our predicament was such that we lived at nature's mercy, for the cottage, stuck on its steep bank, stood directly in the path of the floods, and there was only one small drain to swallow them.
Neither saints nor angels would keep their patience if they had this to put up with.
When the drain blocked up, as it did in an instant, the floods poured into our kitchen.
My poor children! My poor, poor children! You could die in this filthy hole and no one would care. Oh, what's out with that damn bucket? Oh!
It was not until much later that I reasoned things out. That our position on the hillside made it unlikely that we should drown. Our house was shaped like a T, and we lived in the downstroke. The top stroke was divided separately among two old ladies, one's portion lying above the others. Granny Trill and Granny Wallen were rival ancients and lived on each other's nerves, and their perpetual enmity was like mice in walls. In all their time as such close neighbours, they never exchanged a word. Instead, they communicated by means of boots and brooms, jumping on floors and knocking on ceilings. They referred to each other as
We're down under!
and
We're up top!
Her down under was a tiny white shrew. She lived on cabbage, bread and potatoes, but she also made excellent wines. At the beginning of April, she would go off with her baskets and would work round the fields and hedges, and every fine day until the end of summer, we would find her somewhere out in the valley. We'd see her come hobbling home in the evening, bearing her cargoes of crushed flowers, while she had buckets of cowslips, dandelions, elder blossoms crammed into every corner of the house. What seasons fermented in Granny Wallen's kitchen, what summers were brought to the boil. Gleanings of days and a dozen pastures, strippings of lanes and hedges. She bore them home to a flag-tiled kitchen, sorted them each from each, built up her fires and loaded her pots, and added her sugar and yeast. The vats boiled daily in suds of sugar, revolving kettles in throbbing water, while the air distilled the hot dews and flowery soups, and the wine ran down the dripping walls. Whatever the small indulgences with which Granny Wallen warmed up her old life, Granny Trill had none of them. For her up atop was as frugal as a sparrow, and as simple in her ways as a grub. Her cottage was just outside our gate, and her tiny room was as visible as last year's bird's nest.
You're in there, Granny Trill. You in there, Gran?
Oh, and I've been found at you varmints again.
You come visit, Gran. Bought you some kindling.
Oh, bless you, child. Oh, wait a second. Oh, right. What are you doing, Gran? Oh, just combing my bits. You got it both, Gran. No, I ain't. It's all coming out. I still got my bits.
Yeah. The dead stuff jumping out your straw.
That's healthy, it is. Makes room for more, doesn't it? Oh, down under. I got more than her. Oh! Who's bald as a taproot, wicked old love? Who's feeling? You mark my words. Oh! Get your hands from my drawers. They be female things. Boys. enough again, you boys. Give it here. Skin your bottoms, I will. That'll teach you, I reckon.
Snuff was Granny Trill's one horrible vice. A fine brown dust coated all her clothes, and she had nostrils like badger holes.
Oh, sorry, child. Oh, nigh on.
You got a dad?
Oh, bless you, child. No, he died long since. He was killed by a tree. He were a woodcutter, see. When I was 5, my mum died, and I went to live with my dad in the woods. We used to live in a sort of wigwam made out of pine branches, we did. And I used to sell baskets round the markets, yes. That went on till I was 15 and a big girl. Then my dad didn't used to like me going round the markets no more.
Why not?
Oh, you wouldn't know it now, but in those days I was quite a beauty. Whenever the timber mill came, my dad used to hide me under piles of sacking. One day, I was clearing up the breakfast things outside our tent, and I heard a tree that had just been felled come down with a great splintering roar. And at the same time, I heard my dad yell out, "Oh, go in, Alice," he said. I tore at the earth with my hands so I could build a hollow to lie beside him until he died. Next day, I run up the scrubs, I did. I hid for a week. But when they found me, I didn't half fight. I fought like a heathen savage, I did. But in the end, they took me back to the manor and gave me a bath.
Oh.
That was the first bath I ever had. Year after that, I married George Trill, the gardener. Oh, he were a good man too. Much like my dad, actually. But a good bit slower. And a lot older than I, of course. Oh, I got something to say to you, boys.
Abruptly, she left us, gathered up her skirts, and trotted lightly into the wood. We saw her squatting amongst the undergrowth, bright-eyed like a small black partridge. Old age might compel her to live in the house, but for comfort, she still went into the woods. Then, one day, as Granny Trill was clambering out of her wood, she stumbled and broke her hip. She went to bed then, forever.
I knew you were coming after that visitation. I saw it last week, sitting at the foot of my bed. Some person in white, I don't know.
Did you hear him, missus? He been a screeching around since midnight. He called 3 or 4 times. In them ewes. Her up top's going. You mark my words.
And that day indeed, Granny Trill died, whose bones were too old to mend. The little church was packed for her funeral, as the old lady had been a landmark. They carried her coffin along the edge of the woods, and they drew it on a cart through the village. Granny Wallen, dressed in a shower of jets, followed at some distance behind. All went well until the lowering of the coffin.
It's a lie! The baddies were younger than me! 95, she says, ain't more than 90! And I got on 92! It's a crime you letting her go up to her maker! Got up in such brazen lies! Dig up the old devil! Get her breastplate off! It's insulting the living
kept to her house and would not be seen. About 2 weeks later, with no special disease, Granny Wallen gave up in her sleep. She was found on her bed, dressed in bonnet and shawl, with her signalling broom in her hand, her open eyes fixed on the ceiling in a listening stare of death. There was nothing, in fact, to keep her alive. No cause, no bite, no fury. Down under, her joint, up atop. Soon after the First World War, a violent event took place in the village, which drew us together in a web of silence and cut us off for a while, almost from the outside world. The crime occurred a few days before Christmas. The night was as cold as Cotswold cold can be, with the wind coming straight from the Arctic. The men and the youths were along at the pub, drinking hot-pokered cider. Then the door blew open to a gust of wind.
Hello there, lads. Willie. Percy. Albert, isn't it? No, it's Cabbage Stump Charlie. Remember me? Vincent Barnes. Bricks all round. I only landed this morning at Bristol. I went in a carriage, but it broke down in the snow. So I had to finish the journey on foot. I'm on my way now to give the old folks a Christmas surprise. Oh yeah, couldn't pass the old comrade, could I?
Everyone, save the youths, remembered this man. Years ago had been packed off to one of the colonies, like many a poor boy before him. Usually they went and were never heard from again. Now one of them had returned, like a gilded ghost.
We've done pretty well out there. Raised some cattle. Made a heap of money. I mean, it's easy enough if you have the guts and aren't stuck in the mud like some I know. I mean, look at some of you. You wasted your lives slogging for squire for a miserable 12 bob a week. You live on potatoes. Not one of you has a sovereign to rub between you. You youngsters will just be the same. All you ever see is muck. Muck. And yet, more muck. And maybe strolled on a Saturday night. You see this? All good money. See this gold watch? You see it? Why? Solid gold. But that's only part of it. That's nothing to what I got in New Zealand, my big farm. Horses, meat, every day. And I never say sir to no one.
The old men kept silent, but drank their 3 drinks, whilst the youth in the shadows just gazed at the man. Then, as he grew more drunk, they looked at one another and stole away, one by one. When the public house closed, the New Zealanders were last to leave.
No, I don't want to land, thanks. I was born here, wasn't I? Good night and Merry Christmas.
Warm with whiskey and nearing home, he went singing up the hill. There were those in their beds who heard his last song pitched and wailing against the storm.
Ladies, good eye, lads. Hello, Vincent.
They hit him in turn, beat him down to his knees, beat him bloodily down in the snow. Then they ripped off his coat, emptied his pockets, and left him. He didn't stir from the place where he lay, and in the morning he was found frozen to death. The police came, of course, but discovered nothing. Their inquiries were met by stares. But the tale spread quickly from mouth to mouth. It was deliberately spread among us. It was given to every man and child, that we might learn each detail and hide it. The police left with the case unsolved, but neither we nor they forgot it.
And did those pigs in ancient time walk upon England's mountains?
Summer, June summer, with the green back on earth and the whole world unlocked and seething.
What a picture it is. Look at that paintwick over there, green as green, and those poppies red as red. Over there, that's Quidgley, where I and my brothers were born. Funny how I were the only girl, and well, I always wanted one of me own, and she were only 4.
Tell us about Uncle's, Mark. Uncle Fred the insurance man, and Uncle Charlie.
Uncle Charlie. Oh, he was the best woodsman in all the Cotswolds.
The new woods, rising in Horsley now, in Sheepston. My Uncle Charlie planted on 35 shillings a week. His are these mansions of summer shade.
Now, your Uncle Tom, he had a way with the ladies. That was until he met Effie Mandel. Oh, she were a monster.
Why, Mark?
Why? Oh, she were 6 feet tall to begin with, and strong as a cart horse. She no sooner decided that she wanted your Uncle Tom than she knocked him off his bicycle and told it. She ran away to Worcester the next day. She followed him, started running up and down the trams all day long. Worst part of it was, he had to pay her fares. In the end, his nerve broke, muddled the change. He went to hide in a brick quarry. Effie Mandel settled down with the tram inspector. And then your Uncle Tom settled down with your Aunt Minnie.
I wish our Uncle Ray was here. Do you remember how he used to talk? Wow, boys, I've got to go.
Where are you going, Uncle Ray?
See him out about mule.
What for?
Get my fingers pressed, tongue stopped, back oil.
You're fibbing.
Just got it, boys. See you on the oven. So long.
Do you remember the time when Uncle Ray came home on a bicycle? Yeah, he'd been missing 2 days, and he rode down the bank in the dark and crashed into the laboratory door. He was streaming with blood, so we got him indoors and onto the kitchen table, where we took off his boots and washed him. He was streaming with blood. He was such a saint. He stank of whiskey. Then he started to sing and eat the soap and blow bubbles all over the kitchen. Then he went back to Canada, back to his railways, trusting to get himself blown up. He fell 90 feet down the Kickenhurst Pass and into a frozen lake. But Auntie Elsie travelled 4,000 miles, took him home, nursed him back to health, and married him.
Our Uncle Sid was the best double-decker bus driver in Stroud. Without a doubt, even safer, more inspired when he drank. Everybody knew this, except the bus company. He began to get lectures, admonitions, stern warnings, and finally, suspensions without pay. When this last happened, out of respect for our Aunt Alice, he always committed suicide. Indeed, he committed suicide more than any man I know, but always in the most reasonable manner. If he drowned himself, then the canal was dry. If he jumped down a well, so was that. And when he drank disinfectant, there was always an antidote ready, clearly marked, to save everyone the trouble. He reasoned, quite rightly, that Aunt Alice's anger, on hearing of another suspension, would be swallowed by her larger anxiety on finding him again so near to death. And Aunt Alice never failed him in this, and forgave him each time he recovered. The bus company were almost equally forgiving. They took him back again and again.
Man, do you remember the time Uncle Sid got the sack for good?
Why?
You were asleep at the wheel. You were drunk. We were sitting by the fire one night, and there was a knock at the door. Aunt Alice and the girls. They're all dressed in black. Aunt Alice said, "He's gone to end it all. He's gone to Decon Wood. He's always told me he would." Then she turned to my mum and said, "Oh, Nance, your boys have just got to go and find him." So me and Jack put on our coats, went up to Decon Wood. We beat up and down, calling, "Uncle, Uncle." We were real scared. We didn't know what we might find. We just about to go, and suddenly we saw her. And his braces round his neck, tied to a tree. The elastic made him rock up and down. In a frightful temper, and you know what he said? You've been a bloody long time.
The sons of John Light, the 5 Light brothers. We come from the oldest family in the world. We're down in the book of Genesis. And then the Almighty said, "Let there be light." And that was much before Adam.
Oh, look, Ma'am, there's a fine pony and trap. Look at all that harness.
Do you know who that is? That's Fisty Phil. I could have married him if I played my cards right.
Did you, Ma'am? Really?
Oh, yes, but I was choosy. Did I never tell you about the time I shoved him into a brook over sheepskin way to cool him off? It was sheepskin where the blacksmith loved Miss Thwaite. Now, Miss Thwaite, she were a spinster and she used to make toffee in the back and sell it. Oh, she were desperate to marry. But the blacksmith be shy as blacksmiths be. Well, one day, she stole into the church, threw herself down on her knees and cried, "Dear Lord, please be mindful of me and send me a man to marry." Now, by chance, the blacksmith were up in the belfry mending the church clock. Well, when he heard, "Send me a man to marry," he nearly fell off the roof, he were so excited. But he tuned his head, he kept his head, tuned his voice to Jehovah's, and boomed. "Will a blacksmith do?" "Any man's better than none, dear Lord," cried Miss Thwaite gratefully. And so they married, and they used his forge for making their toffee. Ah, well, I had better be going, else your Auntie Fan will think we're never coming. I remember the house where I was born, the window where the sun came peeping in at morn, the lilacs where the robin built, and where my brother sat for the burning of his birthday. I remember. The
first quiet outing we ever had was a jaunt in a farm wagon to Gloucester. Later, with the coming of the horse break and charabanc, the whole village took part as well. One year, the outing was to Weston-super-Mare, and we saved up for months to be worthy of it.
Come on, Mum, we're going to be late.
I'm coming. I just gotta find me corsets. Poke under the sideboard. See if you can find them.
Come on, Laura, they'll go without us.
Oh, poke harder, Laurie.
Our mom.
Oh, you're under my feet. Go away. I've got to wash myself first.
So we left her and scampered along to the wool pack. Mothers with big buckets, stuffed with picnics. Children with cocoa tin spades. Fathers with bulging overcoats.
Lined entirely with clinking bowls.
Little Miss Tully collecting the fares.
Looking at my cheeks nervously.
Mr. Vick, the shopkeeper.
Hang my keys in my shopping basket.
The two dressmakers.
In unclaimed gowns.
Lily Nelson, a fugitive from her brother.
Mustn't tell Arnold.
The squire's old gardener had brought a basket of pigeons.
Which I'm going to release when appear.
And the postmistress, having nobody to deliver her letters to,
I've done the lot and I'm coming along too.
the last to turn up was the grave digger.
What you got in that sack there,
Sexton? Don't look too good, do it?
Can't see it does.
Bloody black on the stroud.
The vicar arrived to see us off, his pyjamas peeping out from his raincoat.
There's a very nice church near the promenade. I trust you all spare a moment.
Yes, Vicar.
And he dodged back home to bed.
Is everybody present?
Mrs. Lee's not here.
Oh, Mrs. Lee again.
Her shoes again.
Yoo-hoo! Just coming, my dear.
That's tight. Just had to wash me scarf.
Put her on top, Uncle Sid.
One man went to mow a meadow. One man and his dog Spot went to mow a meadow. Two men went to mow a meadow. Two men, one man and his dog Spot went to mow a meadow. Three men went to mow a meadow. Three men, two men, one man and his dog Spot went to mow a meadow.
Mile after rattling mile we went, under the racing sky, flying neckties and paper kites from the back. Mother pointed out landmarks and lectured the sleepers on points of hysterical interest. Then the crawling Tony found the basket of pigeons, and the coach exploded. As we all drove into
Weston-super-Mare! Where's the sea then?
It's all mud.
Magnifica!
Oh, don't Paul. Oh, look! There's donkeys!
Hey, do you see? Hey, Sid, let's go get away.
Come on, Mrs. Jones. There looks like a clean place down there by the grandstand. Oh, I don't think much of this Western tea, do you, Mrs. Lee? Made for the dreams, I reckon.
the squire's old gardener, having lost his pigeons, was trying to catch gulls in a basket. Who appeared to have brought a spade, was out in the mud digging holes. Then the tide came, and we all went on the roundabout. When the tide went out, evening fell, and we returned to the waiting charabanc. past the crowd at last and climbs the valley road, whose every curve our bodies recognise, whose every slant we lean to. We woke to the smell of our house, and the outing was over. The winter's village treat was the parochial church tea and annual entertainment.
Bless me, the parochial and entertainment. Yes. Another year has come. When I see you all gathered here today, as I'm sure you all are, it makes me think how all of us here must how we all here must as it were
What's the smallest room in the world?
A mushroom!
And the largest, may I ask?
A room for improvement!
You know it. Now I have the pleasure in introducing Miss Pimberry with a song about a mushroom.
As I arose the other morning, as the sun did rise, I saw before me something strange. It made me rub my eyes. Wasn't there the night before? Whatever could it be? It wasn't very large, and yet I knew it was for me. So grow, 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 little mushroom, grow, grow, grow. I know somebody wants you so, so, so. I'll come here tomorrow. Just you wait and see. And if you grow much bigger, you will just suit me.
Mushroom, grow, grow, grow. I know somebody wants you so, so, so. I'll come here tomorrow. Just you wait and see. And if you grow much bigger, you will just suit me. Grow, 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 little mushroom, grow, grow, grow. I know somebody wants you so, so, so. I'll come here tomorrow. Just you wait and see. And if you grow much bigger, you will just suit me.
And now for our guest star of the evening, the Baroness von Hodenburg from Schiemskom, whom we are very honored to have with us. She is a poetess and the author of many booklets. I know you all give her a warm word.
I am going to sing a little ditty I conducted myself. Both words and music, I may say, is mine, and they prefer to this pleasant way. Elfin folk, come over the hill, come and dance just where you will. Bring your pipes and bring your flutes, bring your sweet
The week before Christmas, when snow seemed to lie thicket, was the moment for carol singing. Steadily we worked through the length of the valley, going from house to house, visiting the lesser and greater gentry, the farmers, the doctors, the merchants, the majors, and other exalted persons. It was freezing hard and blowing too, yet not for a moment did we feel the cold. The snow blew into our faces, into our eyes and mouths, but we did not care. The collecting box grew heavier, and the list of the names in the book longer. The last house, high up on the hill, the place of Joseph the farmer. The last stretch of country to reach his farm was perhaps the most difficult of all. In these rough, bare lanes, open to all winds, sheep were buried and wagons lost.
In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow, snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long ago. In the bleak midwinter,
The sky cleared, and broad streams of stars ran down over the valley and away to Wales. Everything was quiet. Everywhere there was a faint crackling of silence in the winter night. And 2,000 Christmases became ruled to us then. The houses, the places of paradise, had all been visited.
in the bleak midwinter, long ago.
The stars were bright to guide the kings through the snow, and across the farmyard we could hear the beasts in their stalls. We were given roast apples and hot mince pie. In our nostrils were spices like myrrh, and in our wooden box, as we headed back from the village, there were golden gifts for all.
Where you going then, Joe?
Nowhere special.
Oh. How about going down the back then? Chill us? You know, like before. How about it, Joe? What'd you say, Joe?
I don't mind.
Come on, you tell.
No, you.
Where was Jenkins? What seems to be the trouble?
Without a blink or a word, Joe lay down on the grass. Silent as she lay, my hands moved as silently, and even the birds stopped singing. Her body was pale and milk green on the grass, like a birch leaf lying in the water, veined and glowing, lit faintly from within its flesh. This was not Joe now, but the revealed unknown, a labyrinth of naked stalks, stranger than flesh, smoother than candle skins, like something thrown down from the moon. Night and home seemed far away. We were caught in the rooted trees. Knees wet with dew, I pondered in silence all that Joe's acquiescence had taught me. A blackbird screamed in a bush.
Well, that'll be all, Miss Jenkins. Same time again tomorrow.
Of course, they discovered us in the end. Sooner or later, one was always caught out, but the thing was readily forgotten. The day Rosie Burdock decided to take me in hand was a motionless day of summer.
Get out there!
I got something to show ya.
You push off.
You thirsty?
I ain't, so there.
You be. Come on. It's cider. You're not to have none, though. Not much, at any rate. Go on.
Never to be forgotten, that first, long, secret drink of golden fire, juice of those valleys and of that time, wine of wild orchards, of russet summer, of plump, red apples and Rosie's burning cheeks. Never to be forgotten or tasted again, I put down the jar. I turned to look at Rosie. She was yellow and dusty with buttercups. Her hair was as rich as a wild bee's nest, and her eyes were full of stings.
Rosie.
The wagon under which we lay went floating away like a barge, out over the valley, swinging on motionless tides. Then she took off her boots and stuffed them with flowers. She did the same with mine.
You know what, love?
What's that, Rosie?
I like you.
And what's she like me?
Oh, I like thee a lot better than Walt. And I like thee a lot better than Bonnie Harris. Oh, and I like thee a lot better than the vicar.
Rosie. Rosie. Rosie.
I found myself wandering home alone, wet through and possessed by miracles. I discovered extraordinary tricks of sight.
I can make trees move. I can make them leapfrog each other. I can turn bushes into roaring trains. I can fall flat on my face without pain. I can make the stars fall like acid drops.
I felt magnificent, fateful, and for the first time in my life, invulnerable to the perils of the night.
How many miles to Babylon? 3 score miles and 10. Can I get there by candlelight? Yes, and back again.
It was then that I began to make up poems. Hour after unmarked hour, while sisters called me, suns rose and fell, and the poems I made, which were never remembered, were the first and last of that time. I was never the same again. The last days of my childhood were also the last days of the village. The girls were to marry. The squire was dead. Buses ran, and the town was nearer. We began to shrug off the valley and look more to the world. The village shrank, and some distances crept nearer. The sun on the moon, which once rose from the hill, now rose from London in the east. With the family gone, Mother lived as she wished, knowing she'd done what she could, happy to see us, content to be alone, sleeping, gardening, cutting out pictures, writing letters to us about the birds, going for bus rides, visiting friends, reading Ruskin or Lives of the Saints. Then suddenly, our absent father died. And with that, his death, which was also the death of hope. Our mother gave up her life. Their long separation had come to an end, and it was the coldness of that which killed her. She had clung to one fantasy, that at last, in need, he might one day return to her. His death killed that promise, but also ended her reason.
drawing them forth from crunchy frothing air. Draw them, shape them, cut them like the thorn. Lay them bleeding about the house, like shell roses. And with my ears to those same rose shells, my heart my humming seas, secret as hives, to those same rose shells, I spoke my crimson words, my steaming brain, with lips, ears, eyes, and every finger's nerve. I spoke. My fingers' nerve. I moved, mouth throbbing, round each crevice fire.
As I do now, lost mother, country gone, groping my grief around your moss rose heart.